one and only.
Hello universe, this is Mr. Tegs, and I'm going to show you how to make a race using the updated race manager. And if you are an existing customer, you should also watch this video because a lot of changes have been made to the actor. Now, first things first, this map you're seeing here is not a part of the template. This is just a testing environment, and it is an asset on the Fab marketplace called Race Track Construction Kit. Now, in order to make a race, the first thing you need is a race manager, and the second thing you need is an opponent spawner. I'm going to probably change the name, but just know it looks like this, a blue cube. And you can find it in the blueprints folder under the Blazing Race template folder. So I'll just rotate it and add it to our racer management racer pool. So go to the race manager, go to the details panel, search for racer pool. Here it is, click add and select the spawner. Once that's done, you next have to place checkpoints. There are two ways of placing checkpoints. One is manually, so I can place 1, 2, 3. And go back to the race manager. I'll add these 3 checkpoints to the checkpoint pool under checkpoint management. So I'll click 1, 2, 3. Click update, and now we have the numbers changed. 0, 1, 2. This 0, 1, 2 indicates the order that the checkpoints will activate. However, the first checkpoint to activate is up to you. So you can scroll down on the racer manager and click a particular checkpoint you'd like to be the first checkpoint to activate. And in this case, I'm going to pick 1 and say set start point. You should see a mesh around it showcasing that this is the first checkpoint to activate. And it doesn't only do that, it also advances the lap. So if a player crosses it, if the win conditions are met, the checkpoint will end the race and show you the results. So in this situation, the checkpoints will go 1, 2, 0, 1. That's how it will activate. And to keep this video short, I'm not going to demonstrate every race, but I can also show you the way to make a sprint race so that you don't have to go back and forth between 0, 1, 2, 0, 1. You can also make a particular checkpoint you like a start point. Start point. Once you enable this, it will function the same way the first one functions. It will advance the lap and check if the win conditions are met. And the win conditions are set in the race manager race settings. It's the first option there. First of all, you can set the type of race it is, and you can set the countdown amount of countdown for the cutscene, and you can set the total laps. So if I say 2 laps, right, I would have to cross 1, 2, 1. I would have to cross a starting point 3 times in order to finish 2 laps. I'll show you what that looks like right now. So first of all, let's hit play. Once you approach the race manager, you should see a widget like this. This widget is optional and it's also customizable. You can see how it's set up here. This card in the info image card is what's displayed here, and the race name, the race type is what's displayed at the top. But by the time you get your hands on this template, it will be the race name that will be displayed at the top here. So I'm just going to resume the game and hit F. F is just a function that is my key for interaction. I'll show you how that's set up in my game mode. Race player controller. And here it is. All it does is check for overlapping actors and tell them to interact via the BPI race events interface, which you can find in the blueprints folder, miscellaneous folder, and right here, BPI race events. And let's start the race. Full screen, F, 3, 2, 1, begin. Now you can see the first checkpoint to activate is 1 because I set that as our starting point in the race manager. And I'm going to shut off my speaker because I believe that's coming through the mic. And I'll go through the second starting point. And the race ended. Now, the race didn't go back to the first checkpoint because it's still one lap in the race settings. So it's effectively a sprint race, and you can just say this is my start, this is my end. Once the player crosses this checkpoint, the race ends, and it's that simple. That's how you set up checkpoints manually. Let me show you how to make them automatically, procedurally. The next way is to add a road spline. You can place any actor you like that has a spline component into this particular area in checkpoint management. Here, road spline. You can use this blueprint called BP_road spline. This actor is used for generating roads as well as generating guide arrows, the same kind of guide arrows you would find in a game like Forza Motorsport. The generated road mesh is used for generating a minimap. However, it's not just that particular mesh that's used to generate the minimap. Any mesh that you replace it with will be used to generate the shape of the map. I can go into the race manager and select this actor that's in this level called racetrack spline generator. So if you already have your own procedural road creator actor, you can use that in the race manager. So luckily for us, this map comes with its own road, and I can just click on the race manager, scroll down to road spline, and pick and select. And that's that. Once I hit place checkpoints, you'll notice that checkpoints have been placed all around the map. Wonderful. You can also adjust how close the checkpoints should be. So I'll first clear them away. By default, they are separated by 20,000 units. I can make them a little closer, but that would also mean more checkpoints. So I'll make them, let's say, half the amount, 10,000 units. And hit place. And you can see there's a lot more checkpoints. Instead of 8, there are now 16. And it doesn't really matter how many, but you know, the more checkpoints there are, the more accurate the position tracking should be for a race. Now, of course, just like before, we can set any of these as our starting point, but I'm just going to pick 0 for the, I could just pick 0 for demonstration. I'll go to my race manager, scroll down to the start point, click on the 0 checkpoints, set, and yeah, just like that, the race begins. You can as well see and notice that for this particular map, sometimes the checkpoint doesn't fit everywhere. So you can scale it up in the race manager. And the race manager has the option in checkpoint management. You can see checkpoint scale. So I can say 3 by 3 by 3, and let me close this, set checkpoint scale. and everything is scaled up, and that means there's no way for a player to miss these big checkpoints. You can't miss them. You can also scale them up individually. The race manager will remember their sizes. So just gonna scale them back down to their regular size. Let's talk about creating the NPC that will be racing alongside you during a race. There are two ways of adding NPCs to a race. The first one is to drag and drop your character into the world. This can be any pawn character, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going to pick a certain car and place that in the world. After you've placed your character, this can be any character, by the way, any pawn. And once you place it into the world, you click on race trigger, the race manager, head over to race management, racer pool, click add, pick actor, and pick the character that you just dragged in. That's this one I just dragged in. So before we start a race, we need to make sure that the character has an AI controller. And not just that, but an AI controller that has a player state. So if you have your own custom character with your own AI controller, this is what you need to do. I'm going to use my AI controller as an example. And you go in here and go down the AI category. You'll see a variable called wants player state. Make sure you have this enabled. Once you've enabled this, you will want to go back to your character and make sure the character has a setting called placed auto possess AI. So we're going to go into auto possess. There it is. Auto possess AI placed in world or spawned. This is what your character should have set. This means the AI controller will always be around if it's spawned or if it's placed in the world. You want this enabled set here. The next thing to make sure you have is that the AI class, the AI controller class, is set to the one that has a player state, that wants a player state. If you don't have an AI controller, feel free to use the BP Racer AI that's included here. Although this mostly works for car actors. But even if your actor is not a car and you have your own custom code for navigation, I'd recommend putting this in there so that you have an AI controller that has a player state. So now that we've said all we need for the AI portion, I can close this. And if I start the race, I should see this Mustang. But that's only one way of placing down an actor. The second way to make an NPC is to, drag and drop this BP slot. Yes, I've renamed it over the course of the video. So once you've dragged this into the world and place it wherever you like, this box allows you to put in any character you like here in the character settings, and whatever character you put in here will show up during the race. Now, a good reason for doing this is to allow you to further customize the character by setting a particular name and character name that will show up in the results screen, as well as the positions panel that will be in the top left corner of the screen. Now, aside from doing these name things, you can also customize the character by setting a skin. So this is just a material, and this material is set via an interface, and it's a very simple interface to implement. I'll show you which interface to implement. That's BPI race events, and the way it's set up in the base car is very simple. You can copy this into your actor, open up the base car, full screen, and in the events graph, you'll see it's all the way down here called event apply customization. It sets a replicated variable, and once you double click that variable, you'll be able to set customization, which is a very simple function that just changes the material with within the mesh. It selects a specific material index to change, and that's how I do it for all the cars that are included in the template. And that's how it's going to happen here. If I change the material to, let's say, cherry, boom, just like that, it changes the material of my car. Of course, it's up to you to implement this, otherwise you won't see the changes in the game. Now, I'll leave it like this and also put in a name that will show up on the positions panel, like Spudsy. As for a character name, if you don't set anything, it will show up as not set by player. So I'll just put in like Popo. Next thing to take note of is that I can also drag and drop this one, duplicate, another blank slot. So this blank slot will represent another spot where a second player will be set to go when the race begins. But if there's no second player in the world, this box would generate a random character and the race begins. Now, as for the generation of the character, that's set by the race manager. The race manager will say, you can set what kind of generation you want. So if you're doing an air race, you can say, I only want you to generate planes. If you're doing a land race like this one, I only want you to generate cars. So it will only generate a random car for this box. Although you can also tell the box to randomly generate a character, like a random car or a random plane. I only have one plane so far. Or a random runner. And that's the default mannequin. But I'm just going to leave it blank and see what the box comes up with. Now we've done it. We've set our NPCs in both methods. Just a refresher. The first way was to drag and drop into the world. The second way was to use the box, the opponent spawner, or in this case, the BP slot class, which is what I've renamed it to. You might be wondering what name will show up for your character that you've dragged into the world. Well, the name will be chosen randomly from the DT Racer name list. And this is where it will just pick a random name and use that for your character name. Before we start the race, let's be sure to add our new characters into the race manager, the racer pool. So I'll pick this slot and, whoa, too many, and pick this one. All set, that's 4 indexes, and we can now start the race. Let's go. Pretty loud. So I'll hit F, 3, 2, 1, and the race begins. So there they are. I'm just gonna pause the game, and there's our red police car that we set, and a randomly generated car, and the Mustang that we dragged and dropped into the world. So the race manager is very, very flexible in terms of how you want to approach designing your races. Yeah, you might have noticed that the AI cars are moving along the spline. I made a mistake by not showing you how to set your navigation spline for the racer. So I'm just going to remove that from here. Now let's talk about making AI movement. The AI controller that's included in the template uses the spline that is set by the race manager. The race manager will pick, you can use any actor that has a spline component. So I do have a spline actor here that you can drag into your world and use to draw where you want the AI to go. And it can also generate a road. Very neat. However, you don't have to use this. If you already have your own spline actor, you can just pick that and add it into the road spline variable in the checkpoints management section of the race manager. So this map does come with a procedurally generated road spline actor. And you can see it goes all around the map. We don't need to make another one because we can just use this one that's included in the map. So I'm going to go back to the race manager and go down to road spline and pick this. Of course, if you don't have any AI in your race, you don't have to do this section. So once I've picked it, it will get the spline component and use it for the AI navigation, and that's it. Next, let's talk about how to create a minimap. You see, whenever we start the game, there is a minimap, but it doesn't seem to be appearing correctly, right? It's not moving. It does move, but it's not correct. It should be showing that I'm on a road. That's because it's an old texture that's showing up right there. In order to make a minimap, drag and this actor called BP Capture 2D and reset its location to 0. Press F to focus on it and rotate it so that it's facing downwards, 90 degrees on the y-axis. Then set its location on the z-axis to somewhere very, very high. Let it go up. Click all and open this texture target. This is what the minimap will look like, but we don't want it to look like this. We want to see the whole road. So the way to do that is to pick the show only actors and pick the actors that represent your road that will be shown in the minimap. So in this case, I'm picking the racetrack spline because it already has a visible mesh. And you can see that there's only a portion in the texture. And the way to increase that size is to search for an option called ortho width. Increase this to your desire until you see the whole map and the texture. I'm just gonna make it so everything fits. And that's it. That's how you get your minimap done. Once I hit play, you'll see it's gonna be very, very accurate now. You see? All the bends, the curves as to where the player is, it's all accurately shown at the bottom left corner where the minimap is. And that pretty much covers all the simple options that comes with setting up a race for your game. I will show you that the checkpoints can show up correctly in the race. So you see the first one activates, the second one, the third one, all accurately portrayed in the minimap. As well as the AI actors, you can see them and their little icons over there. Wonderful. A very simple thing that can be off-putting is the visibility of the checkpoints. You may not like how it looks, so you can set the race manager to hide the checkpoints during a race. So in the checkpoint management, or slowly above race settings, I believe, you can say hide checkpoints during race. Make sure that's true, and we start to see the change. Woo. And just like that, all the checkpoints are hidden. You can't see them, and your game looks all the more cleaner for it. And the checkpoints still activate and work normally. The only thing you can see are the debug numbers, but they have to be there for debugging purposes. And that's it. That's all you need to know. Even look, the top left, Spudsy. That's the name of the police car. And it showed up. Spudsy. All right. Thank you for watching.